Spaghettios, a guilty pleasure of mine when I need some comfort food and I'm feeling nostalgic. This is actually what the label looked like back when I was a kid. I'm a Gen Xer, so like 70s, 80s. Actually, it looked more like this. Franco-American. That is what I remembered it to be. There's Franco-American and there's Chef Boyardee, that I call Chef Blow-Farty because it gives everybody gas. But I thought it was Franco-American, and then I noticed while I was making this video that it no longer is. Again, this is what the labels like. This is what I remember the labels as a kid. I absolutely adored Spaghettios. I still kind of do. Now it looks more like this, but look, it's Campbell's Spaghettios. So Campbell's acquired Franco-American like decades ago, but in 2004 they dropped Franco-American, became Campbell's. But here, neat round spaghetti you can eat with a spoon. Uh-oh, Spaghettios. That's what I remember as a kid. I don't know if like newer generations know this. Okay, but look, nutritionally, not the best thing. I mean, look at the fat content, the saturated fat, like it's weird. And of course the ingredients. Soy, mechanical chicken parts, like, no, thank you. I'm going to make my own homemade, less processed, although I will say it is hard to replicate the consistency of the sauce. But I tried. This is mine. Yeah, the sauce, it's weird. It's like kind of a soupy sauce, right? Delicious. But we're going to start with beef, ground pork, even though it's ground chicken in the actual, an egg, Parmesan, minced garlic. It's ground chicken in the actual meatballs. Salt, pepper. If you pause the ingredients list, you'll see that. Some parsley and some breadcrumbs. This is just my rendition of what these meatballs are. I don't really know. And of course, we're going to just put it all together and you're going to mix it all up with your hands, with your clean hands. Yeah. And then, but you don't want to overmix because obviously if you overmix meat, it gets too tough. So we don't want to do that. And then we're going to roll them up into little tiny balls. Now, the thing is you can't really tell the scale, so I have to show you. See, they're itty bitty and they're going to shrink a little bit more as we fry them. I'm frying them. I'm not baking them. You'll see in a minute, what's up with that. But for scale, you can see in the palm of my hand, they're pretty small. And here you go. For reference, I made some regular size meatballs out of the same batch because I'll reuse those for something, something else. These are pretty basic meatballs. They're not necessarily Italian. So you could use these for Swedish meatballs. You could use them for any sort of meatball type of recipe you got. I used olive oil. You can use any kind of oil you'd like, and we don't have to cook them all the way through because they will simmer in the sauce and then they will get cooked all the way through. So you just want to give them a nice, browning and then drain them when you're finished because you don't want the sauce to be greasy, even though olive oil is good for you. And if you're using any other oil, then you definitely want to drain them. I made my meatballs ahead of time. So here's the sauce ingredients. So a little bit of sugar. I'll talk about that in a minute. We've got 2 tablespoons of butter. Again, I will put the stuff in the description box below. Some tomato sauce, some cheddar cheese. I know, cheddar cheese. Garlic powder, paprika, onion powder, and salt. Those are our spices, and some pepper if you'd like. 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, some milk, ground pepper again if you like to use the pepper. That's it. It's a very basic sauce. So now I heated up my pan. You don't have to do that. I just happen to have done that. Now You might want to have a splash guard because for some reason, working with tomato sauce, it'll spit all over the place. So I am adding now my tomato paste. You're just going to incorporate that in there, stir it all up. Yeah, this is a very, very basic. It's not like any sauce that you would use. So here's the highlight of the show. Here's the star of the show, the pasta. I had to get this on Amazon. My grocery store does not carry these little rings. Yours may or may not. If you cannot find it, you can find it online. Kind of pricey, but it goes a long way. So it'll get you through a couple of recipes. And of course, I'm generously salting the water that I'm cooking the pasta in. There's my meatballs on the side. I actually made my meatballs the night before. Now I'm adding just a little bit of the pasta water to the sauce to kind of thin it out. Because again, Spaghettios sauce, it's like a whole weird kind of weird. Okay, so I added some sugar in case you are using canned tomato sauce. That will take away the tinny taste. Otherwise, it also cuts down on the acidity a little bit. You do not have to use sugar. You can use honey. You could, well, I wouldn't use an artificial sweetener, but you can omit it. You don't have to add any additional sugar. Now I'm adding the butter and the milk, because those are two things that are in the Spaghettios sauce. If you read the ingredients, it adds a little bit of richness, it adds a little bit of creaminess. It's starting to transform into the Spaghettios kind of. See, the Spaghettios vibe is happening right now. Look at that sauce. Tell me that doesn't look like actual Spaghettios sauce. I find that the plain Spaghettios taste different than the Spaghettios with meatballs and the Spaghettios with Franks. I don't know why. And yes, cheddar cheese is the cheese that they use. And I'm adding my spices now. I don't know why, it's weird. So I like to buy the plain Spaghettios and add my own hot dogs when I'm feeling like Spaghettios and Franks. But it's definitely a different sauce. I can't explain it. Let me know down in the comments if you've noticed that, if you've had the different types of Spaghettios, if you've noticed a difference between the plain and the Spaghettios that actually has like additives, like additional type of meats. Anyway, we're gonna let this simmer to warm up my meatballs. If you're doing this all at the same time, you still want to let it simmer. Here's my household tip for you today. Did you know if you put a wooden spoon over a boiling pot of water, it won't boil over? Which for those of us with electric stoves, that's key. You know how much I hate having an electric, but I'm renting, can't help it. So now we want to add the pasta to the sauce and incorporate that all up in there and mix it good. And like this way, it's very much like Spaghettios out of a can. If you refrigerate this though and then eat it the next day, you're going to have to thin it out in order to get the same sauce consistency. But here it is, the final product. It's delicious. It may not be exactly like the canned stuff, but it's such a close facsimile, you won't miss it.